conference is being recorded.
Hello, this is Russ Tanner from Global Skywatch, and it is June 17th, 2013. And this is the Monday night meeting. This is Monday Night Live. We get together every Monday night at 5:30 Pacific Time, 8:30 Eastern Time to get together, chat, share ideas, have guests, learn about geoengineering, and to expose the largest crime against humanity in human history. And we are all breathing it. We are all living under it right now. We are all experiencing this. Our lives have already been shortened because of it, scientifically. And this is the generation that will be responsible for putting an end to it. It will not be the next generation. It will not be the one after that. It's going to be us right now. There is no choice, and there is no other option because it's happening now. And if we don't deal with it, there will be no one left to deal with it. Now, we're going to have good news. We've got Daun Abbett is going to be on with us tonight. I posted on our Facebook group that one of the most important things that people can learn in this time in their lives is how to grow your own food, because there will come a time very soon when real food is not going to be available. Right now, 80% of the food in U.S. supermarkets is GMO, which causes organ damage and other problems, dissolves your inner lining of your stomach, probably causes cancer. I bet we're going to find out soon enough if we don't already know that. Nevertheless, these are big issues. Our food supply is being systematically destroyed by the spraying, and we are going to be the generation that are either going to deal with this or we're going to live with the consequences forever, which are going to be historic, which are already historic. Before we begin talking with Daun, I want to go through some announcements. Everyone, please participate in the End Geoengineering program. We have bumper stickers that say End Geoengineering on them that you can put on your car, in your workplace, on your notebook, on your helmet, wherever you want to put them. The endgeoengineering.com website is specifically designed to introduce new people to the subject of geoengineering. We also have yard signs. We have a whole box full of yard signs that came in several weeks ago. Haven't been moving very quickly at all. And we really hope that people can use these signs to either put them in your front yard or take them on protest with you. They're excellent signs, very durable, plastic, waterproof. I've got an End Geoengineering sign in my front yard, and I've got End Geoengineering signs and all three bumper stickers on all three vehicles that are in the driveway of the house I live in. So I really hope that you'll utilize these things. I know that wherever I drive, people are being exposed to the End Geoengineering message, which is absolutely critical. This is the largest crime against humanity in human history, and it is your decision as to what we are going to do about it. I want to congratulate our Facebook group, which just passed 8,000 members. I wish we could get a large number of those members listening and more actively involved. Many of those people, I believe, are just learning about this subject. So if you're in our Facebook group, please welcome the new people and gently, kindly, respectfully introduce them excuse me, to the subject of geoengineering. We would like someone to help us with producing doorknob hangers. This would be a great way. We don't have mass media on our side. We can't have a news broadcast and cover 1/5 of the city's population. You have to go door to door. You have to contact people other ways, email. So door hangers would be something that people have brought up as a very interesting idea for groups who want to go door to door and bring this to light. Standing on a street corner, busy street corner in your city with a sign is an excellent way to raise awareness about this subject. So please consider doing these things. Right now I'm showing you the End Geoengineering website on the live stream. You can go to globalskywatch.com/live and you can visit our live stream in a link that is right there. globalskywatch.com/live. If you want to call in, you can call in to us. I will give you the number when we're ready to take calls, but we will be taking questions for Dawn at the end of this program. If you have any announcements you want to make about upcoming events that you want on this recording, thousands of people will hear the recording. And so I'll be more than happy to let you make those announcements. We're going to try to go quickly, cover a lot of material, and this is going to be a real packed program with a lot of information about practical tips for growing your own food. I grow much of my own food, and it is amazingly easy, yet there is a lot you can know about it. There's a lot that you can learn about it to make your growing better, easier, and more effective. So it's one of those things where you can get started easily, but you will never stop learning. If you want to know about upcoming events, please go to, and I'll show you on the live stream, Global Skywatch up here in the menu. Click on the Global Events Calendar. This will take you to the Global Skywatch Global Events Calendar. And here we have a whole list of a comprehensive list of events that are going on related to geoengineering. So please post your event here, and this gets a lot of coverage, a lot of views, and we promote these events as they come close. So please take the time to post your upcoming event in the global events calendar. It's up to you. Nobody's going to do it for you, or you can email me and I will. But I prefer, if you know how to do it, please do it. I'm extremely busy. I will be happy to do it for you if you don't know how, but I would really appreciate it if you learned how to use our forum and you utilize the calendar and the news feed and the other features that are on there to help get the word out. Our Facebook group has a new group of administrators who are helping to keep everybody peaceful, helping to keep it very civil. So our Facebook group is not only growing quickly, but it's very family friendly. So invite your people to come to the Facebook group called Chemtrails Global Skywatch, so everybody can be part of the group and learn about this subject. Let me see what else I want to share with you real quick, and we'll get on to talking with Daun. There is another announcement I want to make. Is we had last week we had Matthias Hanke on, who is a Swiss filmmaker who is making a movie called Overcast, and he's trying to raise $25,000. So far, they raised about $6,000. But they need to raise $25,000 to finish post-production on this movie. And the most amazing thing about this movie, the thing that I like about it, is they're actually going up in a plane, and they have already done this, and they need to do it again and sample the air. They actually have sampled chemtrails. A lot of people in the United States have talked about doing this, but nobody has done it. And it's an amazingly complicated thing to do because you can't just open the window and sample them. You have to have a special mechanism that sucks air through a filter. Then you have to have special filter. Then that filter has to be analyzed, and it's amazingly complicated because you have to mount equipment on the wing. It has to be safe. You have to fly at altitude. You're in a pressurized cabin because you have to go high. So they're doing it. So please keep an eye on the. I'll provide you with a link on our website. Actually, what you can do is go to globalskywatch.com/live and click on the live online meetings right here. If you're looking at our stream, I'm showing it to you. And in the left sidebar here, there are a bunch of links. You can go to recorded meetings. This is a whole history of all the meetings we've ever done. And right there is a link to Matthias Hanke. Click on that. You can listen to his interview, and there's also a link right down here to Indiegogo.com. I'll click on that, and this is his link to his project Overcast. They've now got, I guess, $7,300. They have 22 days left to meet their goal. They're not even halfway there yet, so please consider contributing to him. I also want to ask you to consider contributing to Will Thomas. Go to willthomasonline.com, I believe it is. I hope I don't have that wrong. If I do, somebody correct me. Will Thomas does tremendous research, publishes papers, and we need to support him so he can continue publishing his papers. And I told him that I want to support his efforts by encouraging people to go make a $5 or $10 donation. If a bunch of people did that, he has donate buttons on the bottom of his website. If a lot of people did that, it would free up time for him to write more papers, do more research, and help us to expose the largest crime against humanity in human history. All right. If you would like to look at our announcements, let me show you here. You can look at our agenda and the announcements by clicking on the live online meetings link up here, as I'm showing you on the live stream. And then we have a current agenda link over in the left sidebar. And then you can scroll down, you can see all the agenda meetings, and there are a lot of links on here too. So that's how you can view our agenda items. All right. I want to see if we have Dawn with us here real quick. So just give me a second. Let me see if I can pull her in to our conversation. Tell you what, I'm going to go in Q&A mode, and if Dawn is with us, I can't tell looking at the console because of the way it's arranged right now. So let me just give her another minute or two. Well, actually, let me just do this. I'll go into Q&A mode.
Q&A session started.
There we are. Dawn, if you're on the console, just go ahead and press *6 on your phone, and I'll be able to identify you that way, and we'll get you in on the call. Otherwise, I do encourage all of you to support Matthias Hanke's Swiss Filmmakers Project, Overcast, and WillThomasOnline.com. Please make a donation to him as well. We have a lot going on. We have a huge Facebook group. Please join it. It's called Chemtrails Global Skywatch. And this week we're going to be talking about what I think is one of the most important things you need to learn. Our food supply is being damaged. The amount of GMOs that we have in the United States is outrageous. We already have these foods that really shouldn't be called foods at all because they destroy your organs. They destroy your stomach lining. They probably are cancerous. And they have a lot of other problems with them, and they shouldn't be called food. And the only option we have is to grow our own food as long as we are able before the soils become too contaminated. What's amazing to me is we're sitting here having this conference right now on a Monday night. You know, it's June 17th. We're talking about the largest crime against humanity in human history. And we have, even though we have a nice turnout of people and we have all our normal people, which is really wonderful, the sad part of this whole thing is there should be thousands of people who are learning about this subject. Our group, our Facebook group, is growing quickly, and it's good to see that. But we need to get people actively involved because the price that we're going to pay, even if this stopped today, the price that we're going to pay is dear. And I believe many people have already paid with their lives. I almost paid with my life in 2011 with a heart attack that there's no question in my mind was directly related to barium poisoning, lowering my potassium levels from chemtrails, from geoengineering. And I can only imagine how many other people have already lost their lives as a result. So, growing your own food, taking control of your own health are the options that we face today, and we can take back the power, at least in the short term, as we fight to get rid of and to stop geoengineering. Tonight, Daun Abbett, been growing food for 3 years, has learned a tremendous amount, has some big plans for the future, and I am so thrilled to have her on here. So let me bring her into the call. So I'm going to bring her into the call right now. Donny, you there?
I'm here.
There you are. Welcome to the program. How's everything going tonight?
Everything's going good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. You know, getting sprayed like usual, but you know, we're making it all work. What I would love to do tonight is cover a few things quickly that you see going on around you, and then we want to pack this show with gardening and food growing tips so that people get really valuable information that they need that's going to really truly benefit them. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All right. You want to, before we do anything, why don't you introduce yourself? Give yourself a proper introduction. Tell people a little bit about who you are and why you got into this.
Well, I live out in the suburbs of San Francisco, about 40 miles east of San Francisco in Pleasant Hill. And yes, we do have beautiful weather here, or we're supposed to at least. And I have 4 children, 22, 18, 8, and 6. So, you know, I've been raising kids for a while and watching a lot of different things go on. And so we had bought our house Oh, and by the way, I'm 47, so I am not a gardener by any stretch of the imagination up until like 3 years ago. I did not ever grow my own food. I maybe piddled with a tomato plant from time to time, but nothing major like this. So about 4.5 years ago, we bought our home, and we had gone away to Oregon and came back a couple of weeks later, and our lawns were on a timer and had our water bill, and it was like $550. I told Jim, I was like, okay, turn the water off. We are not watering the lawns. We cannot afford $400 or $550 for water. This is ridiculous. So that summer, I let our lawns die. And Jim was freaking out because he was like, look at how bad our yard looks. I said, I don't care. So we ended up thinking about what we were going to do. Frankly, I wanted to just pour concrete on the whole thing. I was just like, I don't want to be growing grass and watering it and mowing it and the whole 9 yards. And then we were eating an apple one day in the kitchen, and he said, why don't we grow a garden? Because I've been looking at it, and that's where our best sun is. And I said, that's a great idea. So that spring, we started taking up our whole front lawn and just packing it full of stuff. I mean, we grew everything the first year. Well, not everything, but we were pretty close. We put in blackberries and raspberries and kiwis and strawberries, and so they weren't producing the first year, but the second year they really started producing. So the second year I started growing things like quinoa and really starting to save a lot of seeds because I was starting to wake up to the chemtrail thing, and I had already been paying attention to the GMOs since the early 2000s. And I just finally told Jim, I'm like, that's it. We're growing our own food, because every time you went to the store, it was expensive and you didn't know what you were getting. And we were big farmer market people and had some farmers that would give us good deals on food, but it was still expensive because we had 4 kids home at the time, because Jim has 3 kids and I have 4. So 4 of our kids were at home, and feeding 2 teenage boys was really expensive. So we started just planting stuff, and then things started seeding, and I was kind of watching it, and I was like, okay, well, it's growing again the next year. And it kind of just started like that. That's, it was mostly just watching it and letting it grow. And all of a sudden, we got 80% of our food out of our front yard last year. Now, we have a bigger backyard, and we also have a greenhouse, but we didn't grow anything in the back or in the greenhouse. We just strictly stuck with the front yard.
Are you amazed at how much you can get out of a small space, how much food you can grow in a small space?
I was blown away. I mean, just blown away. Because, my younger daughter's birthday's in October, so I grew a bunch of little pumpkins, and then when her birthday came up, it was like we had a pumpkin party, and it was like, because we don't have a lot of money, so I would just give these little kids pumpkins that we grew for party favors, or I would give them a plant that, maybe we started and everybody got peas or whatever. But then I just really started hunkering down. This past year has been really insane for me with the whole GMO thing and my kids.
That's awesome. Hey, if you can pull away from the microphone a little bit, it'll be a little clearer for us.
Is that better?
Oh, that's 100 times better. Much better. Crystal clear now.
Sorry. So anyway, we this past year, a lot of people were looking at us like we were crazy, because people would walk by and go, "Oh, look, they got a garden in their front yard." But this year, all the grapes grew up because I did a grape fence right there at the street line, and the grape fence grew up about 6 feet, well, maybe 5 feet. So it's about 5 feet right now, so people can't directly look into our yard. But I will say, a lot of the old people walk in our neighborhood, and lots of people were stopping and telling us their little farming stories from when they were kids. And it ended up turning out to be like, okay, great, we're getting to know our neighbors. We're getting to know who's who. People would start walking by, and I'd give them a bag of strawberries or some peas or beans or whatever I had handy that I could just grab and give to them. But And then we started composting, and that was really nice for our dirt as well. I got over 200 pounds of tomatoes from my compost last year. And yeah, when you start, bringing in 200 pounds just off of compost, that wasn't including all the other tomato plants I had. I'm like, what am I going to do with all of these tomatoes? I mean, I can't throw them away. So my neighbor also does a lot of gardening. And she said, oh, well, you have to do all this special stuff with the seeds and all this other stuff. And I said, I do not have the time to process tomato seeds like that. So last year I took all the extra tomatoes we had and I stuck them on paper towels and sun-dried them and then folded them up, put them in plastic bags and put a little rice in there. And she said, that's never going to work to regrow tomatoes. And I said, well, I'm going to give it a shot because I had so many, and so this year I cut off a little piece of the paper towel and put about 5 seeds on the paper towel in the ground. And now I've got 2 tomato plants growing.
Isn't that cool? Laura and I started gardening 3 years ago, and the second year we had all these tomato plants coming up where we didn't plant them. We got carrot. Now this year we got carrots coming up. We have other things coming up. We have lettuce plants coming up where we didn't, because we let some of it just go to seed. And I mean, now we have more plants than we did the first year, and we're not even actively gardening much. I mean, we're actually scaling back because we're trying to balance running our business with gardening, and we had so much food that we can't even eat most of it. And isn't that cool? I mean, you're saving your own seeds and everything. You know what? But before we get in this, let me get this first part out of the way, because I want to get into giving people tips and information, and this hour goes very quickly. So you know what? Can I show people the chemtrails that you've taken on your Facebook page, the pictures that you have? Just kind of glance through them real quick.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me put that on the stream right now. And I don't know if you're looking at this, you don't have to look at it or anything, but I mean, let me just give people a view because everybody can see it on the stream right now. These are pictures. I'm looking at your Facebook page. These are pictures that people have, or that you have taken right from your area that you live in. Some of them probably from your house, or what?
Okay, so the ones that you're looking, the first ones next to the middle fingers, those were taken at my kids' school. That other one where you see the roof line, that would be my roof. These orange ones was a real creepy time. That happened last year, and we saw it, but I pulled the pictures off of another website because I saw the same exact thing happening over Mount Diablo, which we overlook Mount Diablo from our house.
Yeah.
And so that was real heartbeat. But most of these, those were all last summer. And then when you start going down, they're all taken from our driveway for the most part. And then there were some other ones that had flaming mountains. Those were taken up in Shasta because my girlfriend got really sick up there. And we went to go visit her, and they were just dumping up there. I was like, oh, Lord. And it looked like the whole mountain was on fire.
Yeah.
By the end of the day.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm scrolling through these so that people can on the stream can look at them. You can view the stream by going to globalskywatch.com/live and then click.
And then there's a real picture right there that just went up. There was look, we have real clouds, and it was super blue that day. And then 12 hours later, just completely covered.
Oops. Okay.
How do you miss this? I mean, how can that's what blows my mind, is that people don't look at it and just question it.
Yeah, I'm going to expand this one. Well, it didn't expand too much, but it takes a few seconds for it to reach the stream. But here's one from April 9th, 2012. I mean, it's just trail after trail have spread out and made these gradients across. I've seen this for years now. Just covered the whole sky. Do you see that on the stream? Are you watching the stream? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I am looking at it, yes. So Jim's got thousands of pictures. He's really the picture taker for the most part. But, yeah, that one was taken right above our house as well.
Yeah, and then here you have, I'm showing one now. Again, it takes 20, 30 seconds to get to the live stream, so I'm ahead of you. But the audio reaches at the same time, so it's all in sync once they hear us. But here's one with that big halo. This is the halo that I always talk about as being associated with the acetone type chemtrails. Most people can't smell it, but when this halo is in the air, the acetone type chemtrail is always associated with this. And this smells kind of like acetone, not exactly like acetone, but very, very similar to acetone to me, because I have a very sensitive sense of taste and smell, along with many other people who contact me. And this halo is always in the air. Horrible. In fact, last night we got
in our area too. That ring around the sun.
Yep.
Is something very common over in here.
Yes, and I want to say that particular. Go ahead, Dawn. Go ahead.
Oh no, but here we are talking about chemtrails, but we haven't even. I mean, I forget about. Oh, there's also the radiation coming over from Japan and chem bombs going off in the Pacific Ocean. This is what California skies look like, and it's not supposed to look like that. These really bright blue skies were taken at my kids' school. This is like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That one down, it's real bright blue and kind of funky looking. And those are not photoshopped or any. It was just taken with an iPhone.
Oh my gosh, look at this. This is amazing.
Mine's right here. I actually took this. I took that at the farmer's market, that one that you have up right now. And when we were at the farmer's market in Martinez, there was some official-looking people. And I actually went up to them, I'm like, what is that stuff in the sky? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. There's just, lots of people are traveling, and those are contrails. And I said, I don't want to hear that those are contrails. That's not contrails. That stuff's going to linger, and they could not get away from me fast enough. Here I am looking like, that's the problem, is that the public officials are just la-di-da with this stuff, and these are disgusting.
Yeah, here's the last big one I'll look at. This is what happens with the chemical aerosols, chemtrails, geoengineering, whatever you want to call it, spraying of these poisonous metals in the air that are coming to the ground, showing up in rainwater. Bangor rainwater, 300 micrograms per liter of barium. Mercury showing up in dust tests here. Aluminum. I'm sorry, I take that back. 300 micrograms per liter, which is 300 parts per billion of aluminum in rainwater. 50 is the MCL, the maximum contaminant level for drinking water. If it's over 50, it's considered toxic drinking water by the EPA. Rainwater 6 times above that here. And we're getting reports all across the United States and Europe with the same kind of findings. And when these things spread out, they look like this. So for all the new people joining us, this is nothing like this has happened in human history. And you're living to see this, and it is your problem and my problem to deal with. And it is a huge problem because it's killing plants, it's killing people, and it's a threat to wildlife as well. All right. So most of our regulars know all about this, but if you're new looking at this, these are not condensation trails. Condensation trails are extremely rare, and they only form under conditions that are so rare that most people will not see one in their entire lives. And if they do form, they will normally form at altitudes too high to be seen from the ground. This is not condensation. These are aerosols. These are metallic particles that are toxic to life. All right, Dawn, can we look at your daughter did a report, science project on this. Can I show the video?
In first grade, last year in first grade, I figured my best audience is at the school. And a lot of times they're spraying in the morning when we're dropping kids off. And I've been quite delighted with how many people are starting to look up and point. And I'm like, oh, good. I had one dad tell me, that Kate said something about, I was talking about chemtrails. And she says, oh, that's okay. My mom knows about them, too. And that he came up to me and he says, oh, I didn't want you to think that I was talking about some conspiracy theorists. I'm like, oh, no, she knows. It's all good. Don't worry. And thank you. I'm glad you know, too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the word conspiracy theory was, that phrase was invented to discredit critical thinkers. There's so much corruption, and this corruption that's taking place today are conspiracies. They are more than two people working together in secret, and that is a conspiracy. It's white-collar crime, and it's all over the place, and we're trying to expose it because now it's affecting your life and your lifespan directly. All right, well, I'll show this video. So let's look at a clip of this video of the Science Fair project. And I'll turn the volume up as loud as I can so you listening to the stream can hear it too.
Yeah, Jade's real soft in it.
How did you find this information here? On the internet? So, what do you think that this experiment tells us about you engineers? All the bad stuff that's going to happen. Can you be a little bit more specific? Like, what is it that's bad? So just stuff coming out of the airplane. I think this is a very thorough experiment. How did you take all these pictures? In the driveway? You have a very good sight line here in your driveway. Well, let me give you a couple of minutes. I have this spot for you. You're welcome. And then
Okay, well that's pretty cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What happened?
Well, every year they have the science fair at the school, and I told Jim, I said, well, this will be a great time to really kind of maybe go expose this thing. So all we did was we just had a picture of a regular airplane, and then all the pictures some pictures we had taken in our driveway, and we just took different different chemicals, and then behind the picture was a list of all the things that happens with mercury or barium or whatever. And she's a very good reader, even in first grade, so she was able to just read all this stuff off to this lady. In the video before this, she says, wow, those are really bad chemicals. And she said, yes, they are. I mean, so a lot of people stopped. I would say about half people kind of rolled their eyes and walked away. Other people stopped and, were saying different things that they were finding. Like one lady stopped and said, my sister's constantly getting nosebleeds out of nowhere. So-and-so broke an arm. Lots of kids have broken limbs in the school. Lots of kids are getting nosebleeds in the school. It's not uncommon for my kids to come home and say, so-and-so had a really bad nosebleed today. And we're not just talking just a little. We're talking, gushing blood.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we're hearing, by the way, we hear a lot about that. I mean, mold exposure, there have been some early information that some of these chemical aerosols may have contained large amounts of mold spores, which can cause nosebleeds. And I actually experienced this in Jamestown when we were getting sprayed horribly in Jamestown, which is why I left Jamestown, New York, and came to Maine because I couldn't take it anymore. I actually got spontaneous nosebleeds there on a regular basis from the chemtrails. Moved to Maine, and over here in Ellsworth, there's a place. I had some relatives come up a couple of years ago and stay in Ellsworth, not too far from the coastline, and they spray over there worse than they spray here. They spray real bad in Ellsworth. And one of my relatives was getting nosebleeds over there, and she's just like, my God, what is going on? Why is my nose bleeding? And that's when they started listening to me. That's when I first got their attention. What's that?
When my mom would give me a new filling when I was a kid and there was mercury in it, I would get these horrible nosebleeds for like a week, and then they would kind of stop. And and when I think back now, I used to get them every time I would get a filling. And I would remember getting really agitated where I wasn't an agitated kid. I would get real hysterical, and then I'd be fine.
Yeah.
It all just kind of, so I'm wondering if the mercury's, we don't know. That's why we need full disclosure on this program, because, it's all like this stupid guessing game, and it's so scary. I would freak if one of my kids just started gushing blood out of their nose. I'd be like, oh, okay.
I had the same problem as a child with vaccines. I get vaccinated, then I'd have gushing blood out of my nose, and the teachers would just freak out. Those are some that I have one day in particular that I remember so clearly from my kindergarten class when we got vaccinated, and then we had no activities for the day except to just watch films. That's all we were doing while everybody got vaccinated. I went in there while I was watching the film, blood starts running down my nose. Two teachers come over and grab me, and they usher me down to the clinic. And I'll never forget that day. And that happened. That can also happen. Mercury interferes with vitamin C. And also, I want to mention, we were talking about calcium and aluminum. Strontium actually interferes with calcium metabolism, elongates bones, can stretch your ribs out, so you'll get symptoms of costochondritis, which will be pain in the middle of your chest, or even the ribs pulling away from your sternum in the center of your chest, or sticking out a little bit because the bones are starting to elongate, because the strontium causes your bones to elongate just a little bit when it gets processed in with the calcium. So a lot of interesting things going on. But go ahead, Dawn.
I've noticed, because I already have a couple of kids that went through school, and now I'm back in this rigmarole, which honestly I think last year was my last year. I think I'm heading towards something very different going into next year. It was just too tiring. And especially in California, starting in January, it's going to be mandatory your children are completely vaccinated if they want to go back to school after spring or after winter break. So they've already signed it into law, and that's not good. My kids aren't going to go get vaccinated just to go to school. But what was I going to say? So either way, lots of different things are going on in the school. I see a big change in children. And I don't know if it's the GMOs. I don't know if it's the vaccines. I don't know if it's the chemtrails or the combination of the three. But there is some weird stuff going on at the school. Kids in elementary school are suicidal. They all have big bags under their eyes, and their eyes are sunken in, and they just look like a bunch of little zombies walking around, and that's the only way to really describe them.
This is, Dawn, this is what's happened to our military men, and this is an absolute travesty, is they're getting 100 vaccines when they go into the service, and then we end up having, and this is a situation right now, more of our servicemen are dying from suicide than they are from combat. And mercury causes suicidal thoughts and feelings. Very, very strong and high testosterone men especially are more subject to it generally than women, which is why the autism rate favors men 3 or 4 to 1 over women, because high testosterone blocks the methylation of B12, which blocks the utilization of homocysteine, which blocks the production of glutathione, which is the chemical your body gets rid of. I know I went through that real fast, but that's how your body gets rid of metal that's how your body gets rid of metals, with glutathione. So high testosterone children or people, adults, don't eliminate mercury well, and these are the people that you see suffering these symptoms more often than other people. But I totally hear what you're saying, Dawn. Go ahead.
Well, the last day of school, we had a party, and some of the parents were like, "Oh, so your house is up?" Because our house is up for sale, and we are moving. And I said, "Well, I don't know where I'm moving yet. I got to find the perfect property. I want goats and chickens, and I can't get that anywhere I want here. But I definitely couldn't get it in Pleasant Hill. I have to go outside of my area." And I'm finding that's even, completely. I called about a piece of land today, the county, to find out what it would cost to get permits and stuff. And I have to deal with 5 different agencies just to get a permit to put up a modular home or a manufactured home. It's so ridiculous how corrupt and how embedded in how everybody's got their hand out. And FEMA's very heavy in our area, and they've staked a lot of land for flood areas, and I could go on and on with that one.
Yeah.
But I did tell the parents, I'm like, that in January when your kids come back to school, you're going to have full vaccinations. Not one parent said, "Oh, that's a problem." They were all like, "Oh, really? Okay, well, that's fine. My kid's vaccinated anyway." They give them everything.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards, flu shot, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So it's not really going to matter. It's going to be one of those things where people are just going to blindly be, "Oh, okay, well, I have to give my kid all these shots. Who cares?"
Dawn, it's just maddening to me because, the scientific evidence is in. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny's exposed this all from peer-reviewed medical journals. If you listen to her lectures and you listen to the information she has, all from peer-reviewed medical literature, you would not vaccinate again. Because, and that's not to mention the fact, and I will open up this page on the stream right now, that there is a wonderful expose about vaccines, and we didn't intend to get in on this, but you know what? This is information that comes up. I want everybody to look at the live stream right now if you can see it. Here's a graph, for instance, showing tuberculosis mortality rates. Look where tuberculosis vaccine was introduced. What happened to tuberculosis before that? Okay, throughout the late 1800s, early 1900s, it declined almost to nothing. They introduce a vaccine and they go, oh, look what we did with vaccines. This is the game that's being played. This is not me saying this. This is information compiled by doctors, published for you to learn the truth about this scam that is going on. Measles vaccines, look, from 1935 to 1959, almost nothing. They introduce measles vaccine, the decline rate slows down. Look at this curve right here, slows down, but yet it's already in, and then they take credit for getting rid of measles. All right. So here we take, I'm just going to show you a couple more because I know this isn't really our subject, but Dawn and I feel like we could probably talk for about 4 hours on all this stuff. Pertussis, look at this. Mortality rates go down, almost eliminated, right? From 1918 to 1948, they introduced the pertussis vaccine, and look, they take credit for eliminating that. Here we go, scarlet fever. No vaccine ever introduced, but look, what happened between 1910 and 1958? Practically eliminated. Why? Because of vaccine? No. Hygiene, right? No more horses, tracking in horse manure from the roads, washing our hands, using detergents, hygiene, simple hygiene. Go to Orbis Vitae, ORBISVITAE.com, and scroll down and look at the immunization graphs and share these with everybody. Look at this. Measles vaccination begins here. This is England and Wales, right? Look at the decline between 1850 and 1950, almost gone. They introduce it down here at the very end, 1965 roughly, and then they take credit for eliminating measles. This is how the game is played. So, yeah, you can see I start talking too much, Dawn.
No, you're fine because you're absolutely right. That's what, I mean, we ended up, it took us 2 years to get an organic garden at the kids' school, and last year started rolling that out for them on Make a Difference Day. And I went into the cafeteria to say, hey, if you guys want to compost, and maybe we could get your leftover vegetables and fruits or whatever and start composting and start filling these beds with it. And they were like, pizza is a vegetable, right? And I said, what? Said, yeah, pizza is considered a vegetable. Thank you, Michelle Obama. And they showed me the federal guidelines on what is considered a vegetable and a fruit in the school. And I said, this is why my children never, even my 22-year-old, they never, ever bought school lunch. I always made them lunch. So I was completely clueless to the fact of what goes on in the cafeteria. And I've always told my kids, you can't share food, okay? Just because some other mom gives it to their child doesn't mean it's good for you.
That's right.
That's how I'm training my kids right now. Just because a parent hands it to you doesn't mean it's good for you.
That's right.
You have to say no. You have to, because like if someone tries to put sunscreen on one of my kids, they're like, sorry, my mom doesn't put sunscreen on me. And sorry, they're right, so I'm trying to get them to have their own voice.
Right.
Bad but true, but I have to just teach them all the time. Every time they go to school, we have these little talks.
Yeah.
Remember, no Oreos, no nothing. It's bad for you, and I'm sorry they ruined the food supply, but they did, and that's just the way it goes.
That's right. That's where we are right now. Well, talking about the food supply, time is ticking quickly. Let's load this project up with this program up with solutions. Let's take a look at some of your solutions that you've grown in your own house. I'm putting your pictures here from your front yard, farm produced. You produced 80% of your food, it says here. I have a feeling it's probably more than that. But here are your pictures that I'm showing on the stream right now. Look at this. This is all from your front yard, right?
That would be, it looks a lot more overgrown right now than it's, okay, so you have that top picture on the left.
Yep.
Last summer, that was coming out of our yard every 4 to 5 days. I mean, how could we eat all of that? It was incredible. I mean, just a lot of these squashes ended up being, there's quinoa right there. That's what quinoa looks like when it's growing. Look at all those seeds on there.
Yeah, and I want to tell people, I verify what you said. I mean, 3 years ago, Laura and I started gardening, and it's very easy to produce more food than you can possibly eat in a very small space. It's amazing how much vegetables, and many of these vegetables will last all winter. I mean, you can keep potatoes, you can keep carrots, you can keep beets, turnips. All this stuff can last all winter and feed you during the wintertime. Of course.
Well, what I do is Jim built me 6 raised beds out in front, and then a lot of it went in the ground. But like we have a carrot box, and it's constantly producing carrots. We seeded it 2 years ago and have not put any more seeds in it, but constantly get carrots. And I just noticed it was out there seeding yesterday. So, you know, all those seeds will just drop back into the box, and boom, we have ongoing carrots. When I need carrots, I just go out to my front yard and grab them.
Same thing here. I was just outside today because we're getting this year's garden. We're scaling back because we don't need the food, and we're trying to save more time because we're trying to catch up on business. But we are scaling back. But I mean, we have carrots out there. We have lettuce. We have other vegetables that seeded themselves and are growing. So it's just amazing. Well, I'll tell you what can we do? I mean, how do people get started? Let's give people solutions. Time is ticking. Let's pack this show with how do you do this? People want to start growing their own gardens. You started a couple of years, what, 3 years ago or 4 years ago? How long ago was it?
We would be on our third season this year. We didn't, Jim wanted some green out in the front, so I threw some seeds down that are taking. But so I even have pineapples growing. Here's a picture of my son next to this glass. I don't know if people know this, but you could just take off the top of a pineapple and look at the roots growing, and those pineapples are growing in my backyard right now.
Isn't that great?
No, I don't think I'm tropical very much. But yeah, they take about 3 months for the roots to get long enough, but those are growing. There's lots of green still coming out of them. Onions also last for about 9 months. You can store your onions in, they say, stockings for 9 to 12 months, and it does work. And then they'll seed themselves while they're in there. So when the green shoots start coming out, I just peel them apart, use the onion, keep the seed, and throw it back in the ground.
Yep. Doing the same thing here. They last all winter.
With garlic, garlic, I just leave it on my counter, and all of a sudden it'll just start sprouting, and I'll just go out and just stick it in the ground. I'm a big seed saver. I've saved millions and millions of seeds over the last couple of years. I've gotten really almost ridiculous with it. This year, like I said, we're selling our house, so I didn't really want to roll a bunch of stuff out because people don't like our front yard garden. They're going to think it's too much, even though we do have it on a drip system, which helps. But I tell people the hardest part about what you're going to do out here is harvesting your stuff. And, but it's so worth it because you just make separate bags for people. And when people come over, nobody ever left my house without bag food. But what was I going to say? I forget what I was going to say before I got distracted on my own here.
Well, that's all right. Well, tell us how people want to start doing this. They're listening to this program. They want to start a front yard garden or a small backyard garden. Where do you start? What do you got? What are the essentials?
All I did was we took up our grass. We kind of rototilled our grass in and used it as compost, and then brought in some topsoil. We went and Jim did some research on who would drop off a truckload of soil, which was like $200. And then we just went around our yard and found a bunch of recycled stuff. Jim found 8-foot boards that were used, fence boards, on Craigslist for 25 cents a piece.
Okay, real cool. Where did you get the soil from?
The soil came from a farmer down in Martinez. We just called around just to see who kind of had the best deal and the most purest of soil that we were looking for, and it ended up working out really well because everything grew really nicely in the dirt.
And how do you find someone to give you soil?
Jim either goes on Craigslist or he would just go online and just search our area. He's very good at finding things. I have found with Jim, he can rub 2 pennies together to create $1. He finds deals that are mind-boggling. Great. Okay.
Okay, good. So you can, and yeah, Laura's the same way. She's great at that. So you can, and that's an important skill to have, especially in the times that we're coming up in. But okay, so you can go anywhere. You can get soil. You can look on Craigslist. You can look online for people in your area. And it's not that hard to get soil. $200, and because you have raised beds, right?
I have six large beds. They're probably 4 feet by 8 feet. And I have 6 of those, and then the rest is, like, my grapes are in the ground, my artichokes are in the ground, my strawberries are in the ground. My beds are just usually used for I have carrots in one. I do a lot of herbs, and I rotate things too. So I have like garlic and cilantro and basil growing in one pot, but if there's a little bit of room, I'll stick something else in there.
All right.
I had broccoli in another pot. I had Brussels sprouts, kale, chard, sage.
Wonderful.
Running onions. What else? Oh, I have asparagus in one of the buckets, which are perennials as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So let's go back to let's get everybody started again. Let's continue on the starting. So you got topsoil, and then Jim was looking for boards.
Okay, so he put everything together, and then he made them a little gopher proof on the bottom because we do have gophers in our area. And
now how do you do that?
He put weed cloth in there, and then he also had some like chicken wire that he just put on the ground underneath them so the gophers couldn't come up through the ground.
Okay.
And then they're all weed cloth as well. And it does keep I've seen where the gophers have tried to get up through there, but they can't. They're going around the boxes and digging holes, but they have not gotten in my boxes.
Okay, so chicken wire and that weed cloth is just the black stuff you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, right?
Yeah, you could get like a whole roll of it for really inexpensive. I mean, or you could just do like the chicken wire. The chicken wire, they can't get up through the chicken wire.
Right.
That's because our beds are about, I'm about 5'4", so they're about thigh high on me.
Okay, great. So he built these raised boxes out of wood and put chicken wire and the weed cloth on the bottom to keep the gophers out. And you put the topsoil inside the boxes, right?
I did, and then there's also a man in our area that delivers free horse manure. So you just tell him how much you want, and I think horse manure is really good for your garden as well, and it's free. So he'll deliver that as well. So we did mix in a little horse manure, and you do probably want that to settle for a minute. You don't want to just throw pure, because it could be real strong and burn your roots. So you kind of compost it. Mm-hmm. But we weren't as savvy with our dirt initially, but it still ended up working out okay.
Well, this is why it's great to talk to you now, because you've learned this stuff in the last 3 years, and so it's fresh in your mind. All right, so you've got the boxes, you've got your dirt in there, you got manure. What do people do next?
Now, I started everything from seed, so I just went and bought a bunch of seeds. There's a place here not far from us, but it's all mail order, even though we live close, and it's the Natural Seeding Company. And he's like a third generation, all heirloom. He's one of the last people in the United States that's, not trying to get bought out by Monsanto, which they probably are, who knows. But you get really good deals from him, and I just bought a bunch of seeds and just started putting seeds in the dirt. We did buy some starts, and I did start some plants in the greenhouse, but it ended up being like a lot of double work, and I just thought, well, I'll just hard seed everything. And then when the end of the season came along, what I did was I just dug a hole in the middle of my yard, and I threw watermelons in there and just stuff, like anything that had already seeded and it was just looking dead, I'd pull it out and just stick it in the ground before winter came and then cover it. And by God, if I don't have 15 watermelons growing out in my front yard this year that I didn't even plant from the watermelon I threw in the hole last year.
Awesome.
And then like 6 weeks ago, we bought a cantaloupe at the grocery store. It was organic, but, and I just, since we're moving, I was like, I really don't want to say seeds. I don't want to, I just want to like kind of concentrate on getting rid of the house right now.
Yep.
But I couldn't throw the seeds away. So what do? I go out to one of my flower beds. I just dug a hole, emptied the cantaloupe seeds in there. And you know how many seeds come in a cantaloupe.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know. I think half of them sprouted because there's this humongous cantaloupe patch thing going on right now. I got all these little baby cantaloupes.
That's
and all
awesome.
it was, I got to enjoy cantaloupe. I got my seeds, and I won't even be able to tell you how many cantaloupes I'll get off of this.
All right, so getting back to the process of getting started, once you've got your boxes, you got your dirt, you've got them gopher proofed. Basically you bought your seeds, and then was there any rhyme or reason to how you put your seeds in the soil, or you just follow the instructions on the package, or what?
I did follow the instructions on the package, yes, and I went down to my local nursery too to find out what grows the best in my area, and they gave me like a list. Come to find out, we can grow more during the winter in our area than we can during the summer, surprisingly enough.
I'm jealous.
I got a list for summer and winter, and those were the seeds I just threw down, and a lot of them took. So all these little babies started coming up. We were hand watering initially, but it was really kind of time consuming, and I don't think we were watering very well. And then Jim put in a drip system, which is really cheap to do. I mean, you know, you could just put in a straight line through your bed and it will water everything because the roots will gravitate towards where the water's at. That really helped.
Yeah, that's, you know, I'm going to say too that that was one of the most time consuming things is watering. So I hooked up for Laura a watering system where she could just go out there and switch some valves and it would water whatever section she wanted to, and that was a huge time saver.
Well, and then you don't know if you're overwatering or underwatering, and I found that we were probably underwatering because I was out there for 2 hours every morning, and then plus I was trying to look at everything and see what was growing, and you know, when you're too busy watering. And last year we had to be out there before 10 o'clock because all these bees would hit our yard, and it was this huge bee fest, and you did not want to stand out there. So I would always be rolling in at about 10, let them do their thing. They'd be there for about an hour. But this year we do not have bees. We have a lot of wasps and a lot of these really big black bees. Mm-hmm. I am seeing very few honeybees.
Yeah,
it's kind of sad to me. I've seen a huge decline in those.
Yeah, we had the chemtrail spraying in 2011 decreased considerably from the year before, and we consequently had a considerable increase in the number of bees, and that's the year we had a big harvest from the apple trees. The next year, the spraying jacked up considerably, much fewer bees, and the apple trees produced virtually nothing. So it made a huge difference in the bees and the production. So now, you know, drip.
A friend of ours told us if that ever happens, you can also pollinate yourself with a paintbrush. And imagine that, going out there to your apple tree and pollinating with a paintbrush. I was like, I really hope it doesn't come to that. And he goes, don't worry, it will. And he told me that like 4 years ago.
It is coming to that. Yeah, it is coming to that, and that's how bad it's getting, and it's going to get worse. Unfortunately, because we just are not making headway against the spraying yet, because we don't have enough people active. We have a lot of people learning, but you've got to be actively teaching other people. So I want to stress that. Now, the drip system that you put in, any tricks and tips? How do you get a good drip system?
Well, Jim, what did he do? He did dig around a little bit, and he did try and put as much of it underground to some degree, and then he had these pipes that came up into the beds, and then he just got that, what is that stuff called that you use for the drip system? He put in soaker tubing, and then he just put it on a timer, and voila, there you go. Now, we just went over to my friend's house today to put in a flower bed for her, and she has an old hose she put a bunch of holes in, and she's going to use an old hose as her drip system.
There you go. There's a great tip.
Yeah, so, you know, people are you just look around your yard. If you can figure out how to do it out of the stuff you have, it really does help.
Yeah, up the street we had an old campground, a campground was throwing away some old hoses. Bought them for like $2 a piece or something. I mean, you know, 25-foot hoses. Kind of old, you know, kind of worn, but you know what? You can put new ends on them, cut out the bad parts, put new ends on them for a couple dollars. You can buy new ends at Home Depot and put holes in it, and you've got soaker hose.
Exactly. No, there's so many different little creative things. So she wanted to build a little fence to keep her dogs out of it, and just has all these pallets, and she's going to do her fence out of pallets, and I was impressed. I was like, wow, Connie, that's great. I mean, so I think she had one of those hoses that were kind of flimsy that kind of expand when you turn on the water.
Yeah.
That was what she used. But I could see where you could poke holes in another one if you're just hard up and can't afford to do the other stuff that you can buy at the store.
So what now? Now you've been through this for 3 years. You've learned a lot. I mean, if your experience was anything like mine and Laura's, it has been an incredible education. And the two things that we learned is it's really easy to grow a whole bunch of food, but you can continue learning for years. So it's a very easy to do thing, but it's really deep too. You can continue to refine your methods for years. Is that what you found out?
Exactly. I found that now I want it bigger, and I did expand it to my backyard towards the end of last year. But yeah, you can, like, I couldn't grow lettuce for 2 years and kept getting lettuce from my neighbors, and then she gave me some lettuce plants, a couple of them seeded. How I grew the lettuce was what blew around the yard.
Right.
And next thing I know, this past winter, I had all this lettuce growing that I didn't plant. I was like, that's how you do it. I think less is better. The less you do, the better it turns out. The more you try and you mess with it, the more it gets convoluted and a little bit harder to do.
That is a great point, Dawn. We found the same thing. We got lettuce plants all over outside of the beds, and so we've just put some rocks around them so we don't mow them accidentally. But so many of these things will seed themselves. We have strawberries back there that are just I mean, we started out with probably 10 strawberry plants, and now you can't even count them. And it's just amazing. And in a lot of these cases, you can just leave them alone and let them do their own thing, right?
You let them do their own thing, and I know because not last week, this past weekend, but the weekend before, our weather was 115 degrees from Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
And then Monday rolls around and it's 60 degrees. Well, you know what? My garden didn't like that. Last week I saw a lot of stuff going to seed, like my basil. My basil should not be seeding right now. My basil should just be starting to flourish and get rolling, and I should be getting many, many, many pots of pesto out of that. And now everything's seeding because it got tricked with the cool weather.
Right.
So I just let it do its thing, and I let it go to seed, and then all the seeds, I'll just go and pick them up and drop them back off, or I'll go throw them in bags because, like I said, I have boxes and boxes of seeds. I have enough seeds right now in 2 years to probably feed a small army for 10 years.
That is awesome.
I'd be underestimating that, and I just have so many seeds. I showed Jim one day not so long ago, and he was kind of a little shocked. He's like, wow, we saved all those seeds. I'm like, we will not starve, because that's one of my worst fears, is that nobody wants to watch your children starve. I don't care who you are, what you think. Nobody is going to want to watch their kids starve. My kids are not going to starve. I
strongly encourage people to start saving their seeds right away. Seeds are going to be gold.
They are going to be major gold. And, if you end up deciding to go pack it into the woods or do whatever, packing in some seeds is going to be a lot better than packing in a bunch of 20, the food that lasts for 20 years or whatever. I mean, I don't even think I would eat that.
Yeah.
You're going to want to stay with the live food and stay as healthy as possible, because especially when you have small kids, that's why I was driven to do what I was going to do, because I did not want to see my kids hungry. I didn't want to see any of my friends' kids hungry. It just was not going to happen for me.
Right, and I just want to remind everybody listening, I mean, we're all doing this as volunteers to bring this show to you. I'm taking time out of time I could be working, and we do this because we're all facing a very dark time in our history. We're about to go into it, and we need to prepare. And this is part of what we're talking about. I believe we're entering the darkest part of recorded history, and we're right on the brink of it right now. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to tell the truth so you can prepare, because we want people to be as prepared as possible. I don't believe it has to be this way, but because so much of the public is stubborn, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to listen, or they're afraid. It's just facilitating the powers that be bringing all of these things on. So all of these...
Absolutely, and it's going to have to stop. I mean, that's the thing. I just pray every day that, good is going to overpower evil, because this is just out of hand.
And I know it will eventually. I know that this will be stopped eventually, but it's not going to be before a lot of destruction. And a lot of us like to think, oh, we're going to escape it, we're going to be okay. You need to be prepared. Don't just think that that you're going to be lucky. You need to think and plan. Planning is going to be very, very important to be prepared.
Well, the other thing we did too was figured out how to grow food in a jar in 3 days, and it works.
How do you do it?
You'll see on my pictures, I actually have, it might be down, you'll see some jars where there's sprouted stuff inside of there. And mung beans are amazing for you. They purify your blood. They keep you very healthy. They keep your pH high. And those will sprout in 3 days, and you can eat mung beans all day long.
Yeah.
And you get and you just put like I put 2 tablespoons in a huge mason jar, and I'm not seeing the picture.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through here looking for it. Oh, there we go.
I put 2 tablespoons in a mason jar, one of the bigger mason jars, and then you just put a little bit of like cheesecloth over it with a rubber band. You just put a dab of water in it every day, stick it in your kitchen window, and drain the water. You just keep them damp, not wet. And by God, if we didn't grow food in 3 days.
And you have a jar just packed with sprouts, don't you?
That's right there, next to the honey.
Yep.
There it is, right there.
Yep.
So those are, that worked out really well. So if you're in a pickle, mung beans, I found them for 57 cents a pound. You can pick them up really cheap.
Yep.
Because people are like, mung beans, who's going to buy mung beans? But any kind of beans you can sprout in a jar very quickly, and when you sprout them, it brings them back to life. They're very good for you, and it's easy. And so if you're in a pickle, I mean, lettuce will grow in 30 days. You could stick that in your window, and you could have lettuce. And could you imagine being around kids that are used to the McDonald's diet, and all of a sudden, sorry, everything's shut down. There's no groceries. There's no nothing. How are you going to feed these kids? How are you going to keep them under control? How are you going to, these are things that I think about. And all my friends are like, oh, your kids eat so many fruits and vegetables. And yeah, they'd starve to death in my house if they didn't eat fruits and vegetables. This is the way it goes. You have to offer it to them in order for them to eat it.
Right.
But my son would go eat a beet before he will eat anything else. So I've got him to where he loves fruits and vegetables.
Right, and that's part of association. I mean, the reason that we like certain things and don't like other things is because as we were growing up, we had associations that were set with these things. And if we can change those associations and look at a beet and look at an apple and look at these things and really, really realize the truth that this is real food, not that other junk over there that came from the store or a dry package, but this is living food that gives you the nutrition your body needs to thrive. It can change your taste buds, and you can start, and this has happened with me. I've started to like things that I grew up not liking at all, and it wasn't until the last 10 years that I began focusing on my health, or a little more than that, that my taste changed because I learned.
Well, when Jim and I started, when we got together about 4.5, 5 years ago, he weighed about 210, and he's 6 foot tall, and I said, we would, cook together, and I'm like, oh, no, you can't put that in the food. Wait, have you heard about the GMO crisis we have? And he's like, no, what is that? And so that was a nice little wake-up call for him. So I said, just for 30 days, don't eat any GMOs. And you know what? He dropped 35 pounds. He dropped it so fast that he thought he had cancer, and he went to the doctor. And when he went to the doctor's like, you are a perfect weight. Your heart rate sounds good. You are so healthy. They ran blood work, and everything came back perfect. And so he kept the weight off.
Yeah.
And it's really like, if people are trying to lose weight, start with the GMOs first. Get it out of your diet. Yeah. Acquire a taste for real food. And when you go back and try and eat it, it tastes so disgusting that you will turn your nose up at it.
Right. Very, very good point. All right, you've given us some good tips. Let's pack some more in here. Okay, mung beans, all kinds of beans. You can keep them dry for a long time. Then you throw them in a jar with a little water, a little cheesecloth over the top. Give them a little water every day, and you'll have in 30 days you'll have a jar packed full of sprouts. Very nutritious, enzymes, proteins, amino acids, all kinds of stuff to survive. What else can people do?
I think potatoes are another easy thing to grow in your greens. Potatoes kind of got a bad rap there, but you grow your own potatoes in your yard, and they taste like they did when we were kids.
Yes, they do.
There's definitely a different taste to them.
Yep.
And I was doing them in pots, and they will grow in pots, but this past year, Jim said, my grandpa used to just put a little hump on the ground and just stick them in there. And I don't know if people know this, but the eyeballs of the potatoes, that you just cut them off. You let them. I just put them in a cool spot, and they'll just grow these seeds. I mean, they seed all over the place, and I just clip off each eyeball and stick them in a hole, and I've got potatoes coming out of the ground right now the size of my hand.
Yeah, and one thing people need to know is if you buy a potato from the store, it's been sprayed with an herbicide that prevents it from growing. The first year we tried to grow potatoes 3 years ago, they barely grew. And we were like, are we doing something wrong? Then we learned, like, no, you can't do that. You need to go get some seed potatoes that have not been sprayed with herbicide. And let me tell you something, they grew like weeds, and we had potatoes all over the place. In fact, you should see my basement. I've got potatoes from last year's growing season that I haven't eaten yet, and they're a foot tall. In boxes, I've got them down there, and they're just a foot tall. In fact, today, it's funny we're having this today. Today we planted all the potatoes. So we have rows of potatoes planted, and they're already a foot out of the, or not a full foot, but they're already sticking out of the ground because they just grew like crazy. And potatoes can last all winter. If you store them properly, you'll have food all winter. Very good stuff.
Yes, so you can, and lettuce also grows fairly quickly in a window. You don't get big, hardy lettuce like you do in the store. But the other thing I do too is I just clip what I need. I never like pull the plants out.
Right.
If I need celery or something, I just clip what I need, and then I keep the middle stalk going so it will go to seed. My celery is going crazy in my yard right now. I'm finding celery everywhere. I don't know how it got everywhere, but we have it. It's seeding right now, and they turn into these beautiful plants. And I'm sure if I ever decide to pull the celery root out, I'll have a meal there as well.
All right, now
when you grow spaghetti squash and tomatoes, you can make dinner every night just out of your yard, and you could go 100% off the grocery store. Because we dropped our grocery bill by probably 70% last year, and that was huge for us. Yep. Very huge. And when we would go in the store, we would be like, wow, artichokes are $4 a piece, and each one of our plants was producing 30 artichokes, and we have 9 of them.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, you could split your artichoke root and create a whole other plant. I mean, it's just, if you watch it, you'll see when it seeds and when it does its thing. Broccoli will give you so many seeds, it's insane.
Also, let me tell you what we've done with celery is we've taken celery stalks that have been used and left a little stem on it, put it in water, it grows roots, put it back in the soil, it starts growing stems again. It's like recycling.
I just did something new.
What's that?
Everybody told me celery is the hardest thing to grow, and I did not have a problem with it at all. I mean, well, that's not true. I put 16 celery plants in the ground, and only one took, and that was the one that created probably 30 or 40 other celery plants around my yard, and I had to pull them up and relocate them. I didn't just leave them because I had it everywhere.
Yeah.
Celery, and when you grow it homegrown, it's just absolutely, and the leaves, I put the leaves inside of a salad with some apples, and celery and apples taste very good together. The seeds are really good too, so if you're meat eaters or whatever, and you put it on your meat, it really gives it a really nice flavor. You can make celery salt. You can do so much with just the whole part of the plant. Grape leaves, I just found out this year you can eat. You can can them and eat them. So, I'm going to be pulling all my grape leaves off and trying to use every part of the plant.
Yeah, I didn't know about that before. That was I mean, we planted grapes, and they 3 years ago, and 4 years ago now, and they said it'll take 3 years to produce, and it's exactly right. Third year, 6 3/4 pounds of grapes. Also, let me get back to celery real quick. Is same thing happened to us that happened to you? Is that everybody said very, very hard to grow. It was hard to grow. And like 1 or 2 plants came up out of all the seeds, and those 2 plants did wonderfully. And then now you can stick them in water, use them, stick them in water for a few weeks, let the roots come out, plant them, and all these stems will start growing up again. So you just keep recycling your celery plant. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Well, I'm going to have to try that. Although I have so much celery, I don't need to.
You don't. It doesn't sound like you need anything.
I'm going to go on a celery diet at our house. But yeah, it's just, I'm trying to think of what else I've grown. The strawberry. Now, my strawberry patch, I got 100 little baby starts, and not one of them died from the natural seeding company that I got my $30.
What? Pull back from the mic just a little bit. I can't make out what you said. What did you have? The starts?
I said we bought 100 little strawberry starts, and they were dormant when they came in the box, and I just stuck them all in the ground. Not one of them died, but it was only $30. So $30 for 100 strawberry plants is a really, really good deal. And then they ran into my other bed, and now I've got a whole other line of more strawberries growing. And these strawberries are humongous, and I'm getting bowls of them daily. Yeah. I had so many strawberries, I was like, okay, we're not throwing them away. I was making strawberry syrup. I was freezing them. We were making ice cream with them. Because I make everything homemade now, so I've gotten to a point where everything's made from scratch. And just kind of plan ahead and got out of the mode where, oh no, I need it now. I have to be patient and I have to wait. And that has been hard for me because I'm a very impatient person.
How many years ago did you plant your strawberries?
Last year.
Last year you planted 100. How many are you going to have this year? How many plants do you think?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. They ended up in a flower bed, and there's so many flowers in there. And the other thing we grew was flax.
Oh, really?
Flax flowers are very beautiful.
Yes.
And now it's all seeding, and you can grow flax as well fairly easily. They grow like little poppies.
Yes, yes. Now and this is important with people, is that in what we've done is we planted some strawberries in the garden area, kind of a mistake, because now they're spreading like wheat. And I shouldn't say mistake, but they spread because they have runners and they spread like crazy. And then we took some of them and put them back. There's a forest area, and we put them on the edge of the forest area. They're growing better back there, partial shade, even though they do like sun. They're in the partial shade. The plants back there are growing even bigger on their own, and they're spreading like crazy. It's just, it makes it very easy. But these runners make it very easy for them to multiply.
They will multiply, and that's what you hope is that this whole geoengineering program is. You can see Mother Nature really fighting it, but she's fighting it, and I really do think she's going to win. And even though things might seed early or whatever, if they fall, it's going to grow when it's supposed to, or when it's kind of adapting to the weather. And I hate to say that, but it appears that's what it's doing.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, I've pulled some stuff out of my garden and soil and stuff that has been questionable to me, and I've got jars of rainwater, and we've got jars of rainwater that have little crosses in them, and I don't know if those are nanoparticles or what, but we got some rain for like 5 minutes one day. I stuck the bowl out there, pulled it right back in, so I know it wasn't anything on the bowl. Boom, and there were all these little crosses, like little baby crosses. You can see them, and it's still in the water. And I don't know if those are like I said, I don't know what those are, but it was just really strange.
There's someone in our Facebook group who has microscopes that can photograph these things, and there's nanotubes that are moving, coming down in the rainwater, and coming right off their skin. They actually are collecting these things off. They're like rolling their skin with an animal fur roller, like a hair roller, like one of those things. And then they put it under a microscope, and the things they're finding are terrifying. A whole nother subject, but boy, that is some weird stuff. But what other tips? We got a few more minutes. What tips can you put in? What do people need to do when they want to start having a survival garden?
Like I said, I would go with the mung beans and learn how to grow food for 3 days, and just throw seeds down. Just buy seeds, throw them down, find out what grows in your area. And then when it comes to flipping your garden for the winter, I highly suggest you save your leaves. We're so used to blowing our leaves into a garbage bag and throwing them away.
Yep.
They are so huge for mulch. They will keep your weeds down. And this year, when I finally lifted up my leaves, there was a whole bunch of earthworms underneath there.
Earthworms are gold. Got to have them.
Exciting to me. So I was like, oh, look at all these worms. There was just a million of them. There were so many. So I relocated everybody and put them into my beds. And I just I make it simple for myself because, like I said, we grow so much stuff that I just kind of let it do its thing. And I'm no master gardener. If I have a question, I get on YouTube. YouTube has been my saving grace.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, let's see if we can get a couple callers on, and I'm going to open up the phone lines. If you want to call in, you can call 559-726-1300, and you'll need an access code, which is 156230. So call in. I'm going to put us in Q&A mode here, take some questions. The time is going so fast. This is a
Q&A session started.
This is a huge subject. Somebody on the chat room wanted to know about cabbage. Did you do cabbage? How did it work out for you? Oh, sorry. Hold on, Dawn. My apologies. I do this every time. All right. Dawn, you there?
Okay. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
We did grow cabbage. It's on my pictures here. We grew the most beautiful cabbage, and there's another thing that will last for a while if you put it in your refrigerator. My daughter loves the leaves. She would go out there and clip a cabbage leaf off and have it as a snack. It was like, wow, okay. Cabbage leaves are very good too. I come to find out from my daughter.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Cabbage is another real easy thing to grow. That was more of a winter thing for us. Have to grow cabbage during the winter in our area.
Good. Here in Maine, cabbage grew great, fantastic. It does last a long time. Couple tips while I'm thinking about them. Beet greens, a lot of people know this. Beet greens are edible, but carrot greens are also edible. And dandelion. Dandelion is growing all over the place. Big, huge dandelion leaves, almost a foot long here, real wide and thick. I put carrots, apple, and I throw some dandelion leaves in. Very nutritious in a juicer. So just some things to think about too. But so you've had really good luck with cabbages in the wintertime because it's kind of a cool plant, kind of like broccoli and kale, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And chard grows really well in our area during the winter as well. Chard's also another cooler. But don't forget, we're supposed to get 4 months of rain in our area, and we're lucky over the last 2 years whether we get 15 days.
Right, and everybody should consider the fact that weather control manipulation has been was perfected in the 70s. There should be no reason we should have weather that is causing these nasty storms, droughts, or floods. There's no reason for these type of problems anymore because the technology has existed for 30 years to control these things. They were steering hurricanes in the 60s at the beginning of the weather control programs, and should be none of this. So if you want to ask a question of Dawn, we got a couple minutes left. Trying to pack in as much information as possible. Put it in the chat room that I'm looking at right now, trying to keep up with it. Or call the call-in number and press *6 on your phone. Call-in number is 559-726-1300. The access code is 156230. What other tips, Dawn? People want a survival garden. What do they do?
I also think growing beans is huge. Beans grow very easy, and all you need really with a bean is Jim puts them on bamboo poles. He just sticks them in the ground and has them grow up around him, or sometimes he'll do like a weave. And beans are another huge thing that you can constantly grow, and they grow straight up. You can contain them and then save them for many years ahead.
Yeah.
And I think saving your seeds with a little bit of rice is also a good idea, just to make sure you keep all the moisture out of them and you don't have them mold.
Dawn, we grew green beans in a 20-foot row. They ended up growing 10 feet. We had to extend the poles and the wires, and they produced buckets upon buckets. We had so many green beans. They are such good producers.
Yes. Okay, so now with that, Jim took our fence and he weaved the bamboo poles in there, and then he weaved it the other way, so it was kind of like a quilt type thing. It was the funniest thing because sometimes the wind would blow and it would be blowing over, but it was flexible, so it would keep the beans on. I was like, that is the strangest thing I've seen, but boy, it sure did work.
Well, see, Jim knows what he's doing.
He really does. I mean, honestly, my front yard wouldn't have rolled out. I was all good with concrete, so it was really him that. The other thing he does is he puts avocado seeds in a baggie and a little bit of water and sticks them underneath the sink.
Yeah.
And I thought he was crazy. I was like, an avocado is not going to grow like that. He says, yes, it will. Watch. Like 3 months later, we opened up because I don't really need to get under there too often, and I had like this avocado forest growing under my kitchen.
That cracks me up so much because I am nuts about avocado seeds because they're so big and I think they're so cool. I've got probably a 10-inch avocado plant growing in my windowsill right now. I just put it in, what I did is I put 3 toothpicks in the side and then put a small bowl, just a little tiny bowl, and I keep the water so half of the seed or the bottom third is in water. And it takes a while. It took about 20 days or so. It cracks up open kind of in half, sort of. And then the root starts coming out the bottom and the stem starts coming out the top. And now I've got a 10-inch avocado plant. Really cool. But that's a great tip. Put them in a plastic bag, put them under the sink. You kind of like, set it and forget it kind of a thing.
You do, and the sprouts started coming through the bag, and so they kind of popped it open, and they came, because I've always learned through the toothpick thing too, and, and yeah, he's like, no, just stick them underneath there. I don't even know how many avocado trees we started, and they're all alive, and they're just going gangbusters in our area, because I don't know which one's a female, I don't know which one's a male, and I know you need both in order to produce fruit. But they do look a little different, and, I'll just plant them and see what they do.
That's excellent.
Mango seeds are another thing that grow really easy, too. I've started a lot of mango trees. I kind of got lazy and didn't do anything with them. I don't really live in a tropical area. But mangoes are another thing that you can start very easily. If you eat a mango at the store, just crack open the seeds actually in the middle of that bigger seed. There's a big seed and then the other seeds in the middle, and take it out, throw it in some dirt, and boom, you'll have a mango tree.
Did you do snow pea pods?
Yes.
How do they work for you?
The snow pea pods, those go during the winter, and we grow a lot of peas during the winter. And I just stick them in the ground, and I just stick the seeds in the ground. We just do like a line, put the seeds in, cover them with dirt, right up against the fence, and voila, they just start growing. And the ones that produce early, I just take them off and reseed them back into the ground and have like a second batch that'll come up. And then we start eating them.
And eating them. We short season. We only got a short growing season here in Maine. We're way up north near Bangor, so it's like gets dark at like 4:30 at night. I mean, right now it's getting light at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's really weird, but it's kind of like an Alaska thing. But snow pea pods grow tremendously. They're a cooler weather plant, along with kale, along with cabbage, along with broccoli. So they do really well. In fact, we've had snowfall up here. 2 or 3 snowfalls and the kale's still growing. And I mean, there'll be snow on the leaves and the kale still's growing up here into the snowfall. So very cool. Kale's really high in sulfur, very good for you. What about you? So those are stuff you're growing in the winter because they're cool weather plants.
Grow beets during the winter. We grow carrots during the winter. Radishes will grow during the winter. What else do we grow? Gosh, the list is like choy will grow during the winter. All the really good green stuff, celery, broccoli, Brussels sprouts.
All right, here's an interesting thought. You talked about onions earlier. How do you grow your onions? You said you would take, when they start growing, you plant them, and then what do they do? Grow and divide, or how do you get more onions?
Well, right now my onions are seeding, so they will create a flower on top, and there'll be a bunch of seeds in that. But we went to a farm last fall. They had this big box in it. They called them ugly onions. I was like, those are beautiful. Look at all the sprouts coming out of them. So I just came home and cut all the onion around the sprout, and then you just peel them apart, and they're like, because they look like green onions, and then you just stick them in. I just stick them in the ground, and about 2 months later, a little onion starts popping up.
Oh yeah.
Put them in like a mound, and then they'll grow out of the mound, and they'll just sit right on top of it. And then you can cut the greens from them, I use every part of the onion, and I got quite a few onions growing in my yard right now. So when I see this stuff seeding, to me that means okay, well it needs to start growing at another. I'll just go ahead and dump them on the ground, let them do their thing, and then see what happens.
It's kind of like a lot of this stuff is almost intuitive because you just kind of go with the plant. You know, the plant goes to seed, so you're like, okay, well, that's what it wants to do. You can almost learn by watching. Would you say that's kind of true, sort of?
Yes, yes. The same thing with the chemtrail thing. You know what? If you look at it, there's something wrong. It's the same thing with watching your garden. Just use your senses, and Mother Nature is going to do her thing. And yeah, it's kind of sad when some of my plants start dying off because they're getting fooled with the weather, but they're also seeding, so that gives me hope. I figure, okay, well, there's a good part of it, and I just drop the seeds on the ground, and eventually it all comes back up again. Most of the seeds start popping up, and it ends up being like Christmas out there every day. You go out there, and I mean, we pull stuff out of our yard every day and eat. So even with not really rolling out a garden, all the quinoa that I grew last year, I ended up saving it. We did cook a pot of quinoa, and it was pretty tasty. But I decided to just save all the seeds. And Jim, like I said, Jim wanted some green out there in case someone wanted to buy the house. And I just took a couple of handfuls of the seeds and just threw them in my flower bed. And yeah, they're about 3 inches tall, and quinoa grows so easy. And it grows straight up. It's drought resistant, so you don't have to water it all the time. It prefers the less water, the better.
Yeah.
And it grows like a cactus. But you would be amazed. I mean, one plant will feed you for several weeks if you ate it every day.
Isn't that amazing?
How big your family is. I mean, I figured out why it's $6 a pound to buy, because it's a little challenging to process. But I found that water will separate things a lot too. So if you dump everything into water, you know, the dry stuff will float and the seeds will usually drop. I can skim those off, and I just try and find real easy ways to do things. Since we're growing so much stuff, I don't have all day every day to, you know, kind of separate out seeds from the dry stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Same with the flax. I mean, flax is very good for you, and it grows so easily, and the flowers are beautiful, and it's crazy. I'm like, wow. Yeah, I'm always shocked when I go out to my yard. It's such great therapy. I mean, there's just something really peaceful about going out in your garden and you see these things growing, and it just makes you realize, okay, Mother Nature is a beautiful thing.
One thing we had that was cool is tomato seeding. Like the first year we planted tomatoes very structured according to the book. Second year, before we got to plant, there was a tomato forest in the beds. I mean, they were packed together. And we just said, okay, well, let them go. You know, we had tons of tomatoes and canned them, and wonderful. All right, a few more. We'll go for just another minute or two. You've been on. Time has gone really fast. You've taught us that this is really easy to do, but yet you can learn a lot of stuff. Mung beans, all kinds of beans you can sprout, which is very nutritious and very important. What other things would you encourage people to do? What other tips can you give us real quick?
The other thing we did was we did some research on dropping a well, like real simple, and I think people should research that. You could go down 100 feet fairly easily if you run into a pickle where things all get shut off. I highly suggest looking at, for a couple $100, you could drop a well and have immediate water. And so the water's huge, your seeds are huge, and you know, I hope I don't ever have to pack my house with my kids and head up to the mountains. That just seems like it would be completely miserable to me.
Yeah.
But be prepared. I mean, my worst nightmare would be my house burning down to the ground and all my seeds getting burned and my pitchers. I mean, those would be the two things I would be devastated if I lost my house.
Yeah.
But I highly suggest people start saving seeds. Whether you're walking down the street and you see things seeding, you just grab them and stick them in your pocket and go home and put them in a bag.
Yep.
Or putting them in a box. And just, like I said, I have so many seeds just in 2 years. And it's funny when I read articles, Monsanto is going to own all the seeds on the planet. And there's just no way. There's no way. If people, you know how many seeds we throw away a day? And think about it. You eat a peach, you throw the seed away. You eat an apple, you throw all the seeds away. Everything you eat, as far as fruits and vegetables, you're throwing these seeds away. Like, I mean, we just think about it. Strawberries, look at all those little seeds on there. I mean, cantaloupe, honeydew. I mean, I could just go on and on and on, and it's just funny how we just toss them in the garbage, no thinking twice about it.
Now, what about rooting plants? I mean, I heard you can take Concord grape stems and root them.
I ended up, a farmer friend of ours at the farmer's market gave us our grape plants, and they actually are producing on their second year. I haven't tried that, but I heard that works as well, that you can clip your grapes and you can reseed them and grow new ones, and then it takes about 3 years for the canes to actually produce grapes.
Mm-hmm.
Same with blackberries. You know how fast blackberries grow? I mean, it's amazing how many blackberries I have, and we just planted one plant, and I will get baskets and baskets of these blackberries, because you can also eat the leaves, so you can make teas with them, and blackberries are just delicious. I mean, the ones I'm pulling off of my vines taste like cotton candy.
Yeah.
They're big and juicy, and I have such an abundance.
Yeah.
My kiwis, I'm hoping, are going to produce this year, because my female died the first year, and I had to replace her. But you do need a male and female, but kiwis are beautiful plants. I've had one of those pictures up there, but they have big velvet leaves, and they're very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that growing around my door, my front door.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping one day little kiwis were going to be hanging from the door there when you walked up.
That's cool. It is truly amazing what's edible too. I mean, I've learned about things like clover. Everything, a dandelion plant is completely edible from the root to the flower.
Mm-hmm.
And they grow like weeds, so they're very good for you. It's amazing the stuff that's edible. And as I sit here, we're just getting hit with a nasty chemtrail plumes coming down inside the house. Oh, here we go. Here comes the night. Nights are always worse. We do have one question. Let's take this question, and we'll call it a night. There's so much information here. We could go on forever, but let's go ahead and take this call and see what we've got here. Hey, welcome, caller. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, Don. Russ, this is Mark. Southern Utah. How are you, Don? Great talk tonight.
Oh, thank you. I hope it helped.
Oh, yeah. I'm just going to give you a little kind of a cute story. You know, I live in a part of the world where the ancient Anasazi Indians used to live, and they have ruins and so forth around here. Most of them are pretty well been dilapidated by cows, but I was able to get a hold of some, at least 1,000-year-old beans. They're big, and they were really brown just from age. And I thought, what do I have to lose? So I stuck them in my garden. And, oh, my gosh, when they started flowering, the most beautiful red flowers came out, and hummingbirds came flying in. I grew these all along one of my fence lines. And when the beans finally produced, they came in pods of 4 to 5, and they're these large, brilliantly purple with black pinstripes, and like someone's taken an airbrush and airbrushed them with black. I mean, they're delicious to eat. So that's just kind of an unusual, I'm getting beans we're talking about keeping beans for posterity that are, non-hybrid and so forth.
Absolutely.
This was a once in a lifetime for me. I mean, if you ever want a few of them, let me know and I'll send you some.
You know what? I will never turn down seeds. Anybody who ever asks me, hey, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, I just get me one of those little seed containers, make sure they're, non-GMO, non-hybrid, and all heirloom. And I usually direct them, but even people buy me seeds because I just can't think of anything else I need except for seeds.
All right. Well, I'll see if I can get your address from Russ, and maybe I'll ship you off some. They're pretty interesting.
Well, I suggest you save all your beans and just keep on growing them, because beans are, if you end up in a situation where you have to pack something, beans are going to be really easy, and you can sprout them very easy, and they're so good for you. There's so much that comes with a bean, and so many different kinds.
And they're delicious.
They're very delicious. And if you have some quinoa, which would be easy to pack, or rice or whatever, you have a meal right there.
Right.
There's some treats to Grandma and Grandpa's bean and rice story.
Well, I just came into a little bit of money from our family sold a condo, and I got a little chunk of it. Somebody said, "What are you gonna do with your money? Silver, gold, stock market?" No, seed vaults.
Seed vaults, yeah, and there's it's like I said, even if you're walking down the street and you see stuff seeding, just grab them, because there's so many seeds out there. That's the huge part. Seeds are going to be humongous for us.
we got a giant. It's been living here for years. This beautiful rhubarb plant. Somebody gave us this sprout 10 years ago. This thing's enormous, and if I have any extra water, I always throw it on it. Well, every time it's, they send those stalks up that go to seed, and you want to chop those off to keep the plant healthy. Well, I take those seeds, for example, and I've even got rhubarb seeds now. So there's a lot of things you can do.
And just keep growing them. I mean, if you acquire, because every area is going to grow different stuff. I mean, could you imagine being in the Midwest and all of a sudden you see this huge tornado and you got this beautiful garden going and boom, it's just wiped out in a matter of seconds.
Right.
I would be devastated. So maybe people in the Midwest need to start looking at their little, basements and how to figure out how to put lighting back down there and get a little bit of water and, maybe grow their back in their basements.
Right. I was thinking,
you know what I mean?
Right. Russ, with the chemtrailing issue and overlapping with gardens is one of the most disgusting notions I've ever heard of in my life, was that Monsanto is trying to genetically modify seeds to be aluminum resistant. Is that insane or what?
Well, yeah, I mean the whole fact that we have to have resistant seeds, the whole fact that our governments are contaminating us and our soils. And as I sit here, like I said 5 minutes ago, we have a plume descending on us right now. I've already got a headache. While you guys were talking, I'm holding my wet mask over my face because it's burning my sinuses. The metallic and chemical. This plume right here is an acetone type plume. There's 8 different types of plumes I've detected so far, and I've given them names according to what they taste like. And that mark just really disgusts me. That I have to sit here and cover my face because I cannot breathe the air because it hurts and it has ruined my health and lowered my quality of life. Is destroying plants and destroying wildlife. That is it. It's horrible.
Yeah,
it is horrible.
There's an emotional factor too. It's just like we have these conferences every Monday, and the more people we get involved, it's almost like a therapy of sorts. Just to share what we were experiencing with each other. It ameliorates some of the negativity that you get from looking at the sky and breathing this crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Mark, I appreciate you calling. I'm going to wrap things up, and hope you have a good night. And I appreciate you being with us every week.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you for having us every week.
Hey, yeah, you take care. We'll talk to you soon, and good luck to you. We'll talk to you next time. Dawn, so we've learned that grape leaves are edible. We can eat the greens of carrots. All parts of a dandelion are edible. You can throw beans inside of a jar, put a little water in them, cheesecloth over the top, put them in the windowsill, let them sprout. Any other quick little things you want to throw at us as little nuggets to launch us on our way?
The only thing I would really want to say is a couple of things. One is we do have to fight the machine. And if you have children in school, I suggest everybody start going to the school and leaving information. I just left DVDs from Noah, and he gave me some at the last San Francisco protest, on all the teachers' desks at the school while they were collecting their children. They didn't know who left it. He had a nice little note on the back. I figured it was self-explanatory. And just try and educate people in a kind way. My daughter's in brownies, and I boycotted Girl Scout cookies this year, but right after that, I went ahead and grew 1,000 tomato plants for these Girl Scouts. They came and learned how to grow them, take care of them, and then they sold them, got 100% of the proceeds, could do whatever they wanted with the money. And I came to find out that a lot of people grew gardens that wouldn't normally grow a garden. Little kids were reading stories to their tomato plants. And these stories were just warming my heart. It just gave me goosebumps and made me so happy. And so I feel like we have to outbeat everybody, whether it's chemtrails, vaccines, or GMOs. You have to outsmart them, and you have to figure out a way that's going to work for your family and make sure you are fighting the machine no matter. You don't have to go on protest. You can do it by not buying their products, not partaking, and just waking up as many people as possible in a loving manner. And I think it's working. The other thing I want to plug is our protest next Wednesday on the 26th in San Francisco. And if you even live within a 100-mile radius, please show up. We need people out there. I didn't go to the last one. I had a bunch of stuff going on with my kids, and things are going on with our house, but we're smooth sailing, and I'm looking forward to being at our next protest, which, by the way, is amazing. I mean, you feel so invigorated when you leave these protests. I can't believe it. So the 26th, San Francisco City Hall, hoping to see a lot of people at 11 o'clock.
Wonderful. And I've heard this from Kelly Dougherty, from Patrick Roddy, from people who've been out in the San Francisco protests, and I've heard from other people in other protests that it's an absolute rush of adrenaline, because you are empowering yourself to go out and educate the public. You're no longer sitting behind a desk, getting upset, getting frustrated, or sitting in your couch in your house. You're out there actually educating people, and this is what it's going to take. We don't have the news media on our side. The news media is covering this up. The news media is spreading lies, saying these are condensation trails, which they are not condensation trails. Even the short ones are not condensation trails. Condensation trails are extremely rare, and they only form under very rare conditions. There's a lot of history behind this, which I won't get into right now. Don't let them lie to you. They're teaching your children that these are harmless condensation trails. This is a horrible, horrible lie. It's a crime against humanity, and we're going to have to take control of our health, our lives, and our food supply. And that's part of why Dawn is here tonight, is to give us tips and inspiration about doing this. So, Dawn,
If I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm serious. I'm like nobody. I'm just a mom that didn't want their kids eating GMOs and spending gobs of money at the grocery store. Because the other thing people are losing track of is that they feel like they have to go out and buy organic, and organics are polluted with GMOs as well. You just have to go buy real food. Hopefully, you know a farmer friend. All states have farmers, and hook up with them. Find out who your neighbors are. Find out who can grow other stuff. You live in an apartment, go to your manager and see if you can do like a community garden. That's, I'll cough up one of my parking spaces for, a growing bed or whatever. People just need to like bombard and come together, whether there's 5 people in an apartment complex that want to do it. You can grow in small spaces. I don't know how that all looks. I mean, you can do research, but start growing your own food, because there's a lot. You don't have to grow very much to sustain yourself. It's incredible.
Right. And it's amazing what you can grow in a small space. And people like Dawn, who wanted cement, ended up with a garden producing so much that you have to give a lot of it away, don't you?
I have to give a lot of it away, and I'm glad to give a lot of it away. I'm just, I was working with a lady here that has she goes and harvests people like me, all their fruit trees and stuff like that, and gives it to the hungry. And when I told her, well, I'll go help you harvest. Well, I got into that and realized just how corrupt the whole food bank thing is. And I was disgusted. And she's got a lot of, really good, she's got a good intention, and she's not like that, but the other people were. And I couldn't help but not keep my mouth shut. And I'm like, wait, you mean you guys get filet mignon from Costco and it ends up at a family's house in another location, and I never see filet mignon served at a soup kitchen, So, there's a lot of food siphoned off, and the poor really do get the worst of it.
Well,
so, it's just, I would rather people come to my house. I will give you what you want. Don't come take it. That wouldn't be good, but I will share with anybody.
That's awesome. You're not emotional about this subject at all, are you, Dawn?
Well, I'm tired of people like feeding their kids with stuff and not being so willy-nilly with it. That's just constantly a battle for me. My kids get invited to a birthday party, and I cringe. I don't want to cringe. I don't want to, and I got to pack them full of food before they go. I got to give them snacks. Okay, you can have 2 bites of cake. I'm sorry. And that's just the way it goes. And, I've gotten them to not acquire a taste for it. And, that's challenging too when their worlds are completely surrounded by GMOs and junk food.
That's right. That's right.
So, you have to teach your kids not just say no to it. Sorry, I'm not hungry. You don't have to be rude. Just say, no, I'm not really hungry right now. Or, try and have them be low-key with it. But just stand your ground. Just like I said, just because a parent hands it to you doesn't mean it's good for you. Next questioner, me better, which is shameful to say, but it's true.
And by standing your ground and planting all those tomatoes for the Girl Scouts, you ended up having a lot of people grow their own gardens. Standing your own ground inspires other people, doesn't it?
It really does. And the gardening thing was not so bad. Like, they know where I stand with the chemicals, and they know where I stand with GMOs. We get class parties that come up, and I feel like I end up bringing most of the food because I don't want my kids eating a bunch of garbage. So I will gladly pick what I can out of my garden. Like I said, we did roll out a big garden at their elementary school, and my kindergartner, we did a huge garden for the kids, and they all got to grow their own thing. 32 kids, they all grew something different. I just brought a bunch of seeds down there. Everything went ahead and sprouted and took off, and then boom, a gopher came along and literally ate our garden.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh, it's gone. But I have found with children, they are so into it. They love it.
Yeah.
They just love it. When their parents are like, oh, I don't have time for that, I turn to the kids and I'm like, you have time for it. You water it. Here's some sunflowers. Grow these. Do this. Do that. And those kids, they pay attention to me. And I know 20 years from now, kids are going to be going, remember that little girl Jade and Brandon? Their mom had that big front yard garden. And yeah, I'll be talked about for many years from now, and I'm hoping they remember it as a good experience.
And you know what, Dawn? It's not going to be 20 years from now. It's going to be 6 months, 18 months from now, when things are not growing, when our food supply is dwindling. We've got a 22+% decrease in sunlight. We're having a 30% decrease in food production already this year, if not higher. We've got big problems ahead. Food is going to be critical. Hey, listen, we've got one. Helen just popped in the Q&A queue. Let me give her a little second to speak. She's always with us, and then let's wrap this up. I've got a roll. I've got somebody waiting on me. So, Helen, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Really.
Yeah, what's going on, Helen? Helen? I don't know what happened, but Helen just got bumped out. I think we're having problems with the phone lines tonight. Dawn, you still there?
I am. Q&A session is over.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. We're having a few phone line problems. Maybe talking about food is something that, who knows? Maybe they don't like that. I don't know what's happening. But you know what? This is going to be up at globalskywatch.com/live. Thousands of people are going to hear this program and get inspired to grow gardens, collect seeds, learn what parts of the plants are edible, how to cook them, how to prepare them, how to put beans in a jar, or how to do what Jim does. He throws his avocado seeds in a plastic bag under the sink and forgets about them, so you have a under the sink forest growing, which I think is really cool because avocado plants are so cool. These are all things you can learn, and you can keep going on and on. Okay, we got to wrap this up. Dawn, I know we could talk all night, but thank you so much for being here and offering all of this inspiration, all this information to help people get started with their home survival garden. Thanks, Dawn.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Russ, and we'll be talking soon.
Absolutely, we will. And if anybody wants to join us every week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time or 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time, you can go to globalskywatch.com and you can listen in. We are also on Livestream. You can see our link at the same location, globalskywatch.com/live, and join us there. We have all kinds of guests. We talk about all kinds of subjects, but they're all related to geoengineering, the largest crime against humanity in human history. It's poisoning our soils, our animals, our children, our friends, our family, ourselves, our air, everything with tiny metallic particles that are toxic to life, making people sick. People are suffering now as we speak, and we need to teach those we love about it so we can get involved and put an end to this. You are the generation that is going to make the difference of whether or not this continues or whether this stops. You are the generation that this is going to fall upon. Indeed, it already has. We're living in the midst of the most critical time in the history of this planet that we've ever lived in, and you are seeing the very beginnings of it right now. Please be encouraged, be strong, be proactive. Like Dawn said, learn to say no when it's time to say no. It's important to take control of your life, your health, and to be prepared. Those who survive the coming challenges that we face in front of us are going to be the ones who are prepared, and they're the ones who are going to heed the warnings that we're talking about right now. You're going to see fundamental, dramatic changes in this world in the next few years, and they may start as soon as the next few months. We don't know exactly when, but the signs are in the air, the writing is on the wall, and we're on the brink of this. And I'm not being a fearmonger. I am trying to warn people because I care about my life and I care about people's lives, and I realize that we don't have to go through this. We don't have to experience it as badly as it is going to be if people are involved in putting an end to this. Please come back and join us next week. We're going to have another guest. We're going to have more people chat. Stick with us after I stop the stream. You can all chat among yourselves. Call in the call-in number. And please go to globalskywatch.com. Join our Facebook group. We have a large Facebook group, very active, great people on there, friendly people, and we're going to educate everyone that we can possibly reach. So everyone, please have a good night and join us next week.